Hello everyone and welcome to this next Excel training video from Expand Your Skills. In this video we're going to look at creating a league table from a series of football results. When I first started to teach myself how to use Excel properly, a league table was one of the first projects I undertook, partly because I enjoy football and statistics and anything connected with it, and secondly because this project does require a range of Excel skills, including some simple and also some more complex formulas. We will go through all the steps until we have a finished league table, and I may need to spread this over one or more videos. Let's just see how we get on. I have here on the first sheet the results for the 2004-2005 League 2 season. The reason being that my team is Yeovil Town, and that was the last season that we actually won anything. And you will see that there are a total of 552 games played that season. Before we begin, two tips which will come in useful whenever you're handling larger projects. Firstly, I always have 4 tabs open for this sort of project, as you can see along the bottom. The first of these is for the raw data, which is the league results we have here. The second is what we call a lookup table, and in here I put the constants, formulas maybe that we'll regularly need to refer to. So for example, in this case, we'll need to refer to the points for a win are 3 and points for a draw is 1. Like so, and we'll just, we'll check my spacing there as well. And we'll refer back to this on a regular basis. The third tab is for calculations, the clever bit, if you like. And the final tab is for the output, which will be the actual league table. The second tip is to remind you to always use a lookup tab wherever possible. Now, it may seem fairly obvious that if we're calculating a league table, to get the points for a team, all we need to do is multiply the number of wins by 3 and add the number of draws. And that would certainly work, but these videos are all about good practice and showing you the right way to do things. And if the Football League in their wisdom suddenly decided to change how many points were for a win, it is much easier just to update in one place than have to update all the results. So what problems are we going to encounter as we go through the video? Well, I think there's 4 main ones. First of which is to extract a list of team names from our raw data to produce the league table. The second is to calculate the number of points and the goal difference for each team. The third is to rank the teams in order, and this actually may be the biggest problem of all, which we'll discuss when we get there. And then the final is to correctly sort and present the league table. So let's start. So on the calculations tab, I've just labelled up some columns here, which I think are self-explanatory. We start in B2 with played, won, drawn, lost, 4, that should be, against, points, goal difference, 3 blank columns at the moment, which we'll come back to, and then the ranking. So all we need to do is fill in these columns. And we'll start by filling in column 1 with the team name, which we need to extract from this list. Now, I'm fortunate in that I'm using Office 365 or Excel 365 here, so I have a function called unique. And this simply takes as its arguments the range or the array that I want to look for the team names, which is clearly going to be this one here. So if we go down so far. I think by game 76, the likelihood that is all teams will have played at least one home game. And then I'm searching by unique columns. No, I'm not. I'm searching by unique rows. So I put in false there. And then I don't want to return an item that appears only once, because some will appear more. I want to return every distinct item. So again, my answer to that is false. Close the brackets, press return, and there's my list of teams. If I count them up, I can see that there are 24, which is correct for the league in that season. Now, if you're not using Excel 365, if you're using a previous version, then get in touch offline, drop me a message below this video, because there are ways to produce the same data. So our next column is games played. Now I know that because the season's completed, each team has played 46 games. But again, let's use best practice, let's use formulas when we can. And for each of these columns, I would suggest maybe pausing the video at this point and then just thinking to yourself how you would calculate using formulas this amount. And in this case, if we look back to our raw data, every game that every team plays is listed here. So it follows that if we add up the number of times, for example, Boston appears in this list, that should tell us the number of games they played. And so to do that, the formula we're going to use is count if, open the brackets, and it's asking first of all, you see, for a range. So the range will be starting at A1 and going across to B552, entering a column, and then the criteria is that we want it to equal this team here. Close the brackets, result is 46, as you wish. Now we can copy and paste this formula down, but before we do, we need to lock the array that we've set up by pressing Control. So I function and F4, and you will see the dollar signs appear now, which means that wherever we copy and paste that formula, the range will always stay the same. So you can see here it's still A1, B552. And there we have the first column. Let's tidy this up a bit just by centering that. And so by knowing this, we can start to fill in this column. So the function this time will be count ifs, because we're going to count based on two criteria. The first range being our home team range. And we only want to count if the team equals our team in column A here. And the second criteria will be based on column E here, and we just want to add the positive numbers, so if it's greater than 0. And we close the bracket, so raw data, column E, greater than 0. This returns that Boston won 11 games during that season. Now that's only the home games, so we need then to add in the away games as well. And again, if we look back to our raw data, we're now going to look in column B, which is when Boston would have been the away team. And we're looking for a negative result here because that means an away win. So back to the calculation and just simple add symbol here. And then count ifs. Criteria range, as I said, will be column B. And if that equals our team here, criteria 2, will be column E. And we're looking then for that to be less than 0. Close the brackets, and I missed a column comma out there, which is what it doesn't like. And we can now see that Boston in total during the season won a total of 14 games. And again, I can copy and paste that down, but I just need to remember to lock the cell references that refer to our arrays. So and all the way along, anything that refers to something we don't want to change. Press return and copy and paste all the way down by clicking on the symbol, the little square in the bottom right hand corner. And there we have all the home wins for the season. As we go along, what we should always do is do a sense check of these figures to make sure that we're on the right track. And so we're looking for if Boston, for example, had won a negative number of games or had won more than 46 games, anything like that. And also I have the advantage here in that I have the actual league table next to me on a second screen, so I can confirm that these results are correct. And then we can move on to the number of games drawn. So once again, the formula will be very similar. This time though, we're looking at matches where Boston were the home team, and the result in column E is a 0, and then where Boston were the away team in column B, and the results were 0 in column E. And we'll do this in exactly the same way, so it's count ifs, criteria range being column A is equal to our team in column A here, and criteria 2 being our column E being equal to 0. 8 games drawn at home, so then we just add on the away games by looking into column B. Equal again to our team in our column A, and referring back to the raw data in column E, equaling 0. Return, oh, doesn't like that formula again, so quick check, raw data, nothing obvious jumping out at me. Yes, there is. Somewhere along the line we lost our countifs function, which is quite important. And return, and we have result of 16 draws for Boston. So again, once again, we lock function in F4 these arrays, and copy and paste down to fill in all the results like so. Final column then of this section is the games lost, and we could work that out in exactly the same way by counting the number of games from the raw data which each team has lost. But we also know that the games won, drawn and lost added together equals the games played. So it's much easier therefore just to go equal to B3, which is the number of games played, minus C3 minus D3 must be the number of games lost. Add those two together. Oops. Add those two together and you've got 46. Copy and paste that down like so. Next we come on then to the goals for and against, and once again very, very similar. These are the columns now that we're interested in. These are the goals scored by the home team. These are the goals scored by the away team. So this time we're not going to count because we want to know that Bury scored 3 goals, for example. So we need to do a sum. So it's equal sum if S And it's asking us for the sum range. The range we want to add up is column C here. And the criteria is when our team were playing at home. So when this column is equal to our team, Boston, close the brackets, and Boston must therefore scored 39 goals at home. And then we add in the away goals by doing SUMIFS. So again, the sum range this time will be column D, because that's the number of goals scored by the away team. And the criteria is we're looking in column B for our team. Close the brackets. Doesn't like that. Let's have a quick look. And I can see that in error I put a comma in there instead of a colon to signify that I was looking at a range. So there we are. Boston scored 62 goals during the season. Just lock off these to make them absolute values. Another one here. And copy and paste. And the mighty Oval scored 90 goals during the season. So away goals in exactly the same way. So I'll fill this in myself and come back in a second. And there we have it, as if by magic, the away goals conceded. So not the away goals, the against goals conceded. Just adding up column D, which is the away goals here, when our team is in column A, and adding up the home goals when our team is in column B because they're the away team. Think about that, it does make sense, I promise. So let's start doing some calculations now and working out some points. So this should be relatively straightforward. All we need to do is multiply the number of wins by the number of points for a win and the number of draws by the number of points for a draw. So this will simply be equal to column C3 multiplied by, in our lookup table, if you remember, we recorded points for a win, and add that to the number of draws multiplied by the points for a draw. And we'll allow that to be corrected for us, and Boston ended the season on 58 points. So if I just lock off this formula and this last one as well, copy and paste down. Oops. You'll see that the mighty Oval ended up on 83 points. Now, again, why have we done it that way around rather than just put in 3 in the formula? Why have we used the lookup? This is, I don't know, let's for example, if the Football Association suddenly decided to go back to 2 points for a win. All we would need to do is enter the results or the points in one place, and the table would automatically be recalculated. It's unlikely to happen, but just in case, it's best practice to put fixed figures in to a lookup table wherever you can. So next we just need to work out the goal difference. Now that's going to be a very simple sum. It's going to be goals scored minus goals conceded. So it'll be F3 minus G3 is 4 for Boston. Okay, some are nil, some are negative. And the mighty Oval is plus 25. So how do we rank these teams now? Because obviously at the moment, I'm not sure what order they're in. They're in the order they played their first game, I think, at home. and we want to rank them. So here's a new formula, I imagine, for you, which will be equals rank. There's two types of rank, average and .eq. So if we look at the second one, which we're going to use, and we read the description over here, it says returns the rank of a number in a list of numbers, its size relative to other values in the list. If more than one value has the same rank, the top rank of that set of values is returned. So I'm sure that's really clear to you now, but it's probably better or easier if I show you than you try and understand that gobbledygook. So if we do rank.eq, open the brackets, the first argument is asking for is it's the number that we're looking for. So we're looking to rank the points total. So if we click on Boston's points total, and then quite simply it's asking us to the reference of where we want to rank it. So we're going to highlight all the results in column H. And another comma. And the order, so we want them to be in descending order. So the highest will be at the top, which means you put in 0. Press return. And we have an NA, and that's because we lost there the initial H3. That's my fault, I'm sure. Right, let's look at that formula again as I messed up. So we've got 3 arguments here. H3 is the initial one, is the points we want to look for. H3 to H26 is the range that we're looking at. And 0 is telling Excel that we want to rank the teams in ascending order. So we've come up with a result of 16 here. Let's just lock these cells. And then copy and paste the formula down and try and work out what these positions actually mean. So the 16th team, 16th rank here, means that if you put all those scores in numerical order, Boston would be in the 16th position. And as I've already said on a number of occasions, I think Yeovil would be in number 1. So how do we convert that into a league table? Well, the first problem we've got is if you look at those top 2 teams, Boston and Bury have the same rank because they have the same number of points, 58. Now in reality, if you know football, you know that Boston would actually be above Bury because of their superior goal difference. They've got a +4, Bury have got a 0. And if those are equal, you'd move on then to goals scored. So the team that scored the most goals would win, or would be higher. But how do you put that into a formula that Excel can understand? So my solution, which I don't claim to be unique, I've had a look around online, and several people have suggested this, and it works for me, is in these 2 columns I've created, or 3 columns I've created, in the first one, take the goal difference, so I3, and multiply it by 0.01 to create the decimal number there, and then just copy and paste that down. In the next column, take the goals scored, so column G3, and multiply that by 0.001 and copy and paste that down. And now in the column L, if we add these 2 numbers to our points total, it's a formula that's simply H3 plus J3 plus K3. Copy and paste that down. You'll see that in our case of Boston and Bury, Boston now has a slightly higher score, 58.04, compared with Bury 58.00. And so if we rank the numbers again, which we'll do shortly, Boston would come out on top. So let's just go back into our rank formula, and this time we want to search on this column L. So instead of having H3, we'll do L3, and the range will be the same, so L3 to L26. Copy and paste that down, and now we have all unique numbers. So from Yeovil on position number 1 down to poor old Kidderminster position 24, and there's no duplications there. And if we look at, there's 2 teams there on 58, weren't there, I believe, as well. Yeah, there's 3 teams, Mansfield, Bristol Rovers and Cheltenham, on 60 points. Bristol Rovers had a goal difference of +3, so we've given them 60.03 as a score. Mansfield were on a goal difference of 0, so they're now on 60.00, and Cheltenham were on a minus, so they're on 59.97, so in the right order. So that works, very pleased with that. So we now have a rank. We know exactly how the team's finished, so we just want to produce a nice looking league table in the correct order. So let's go to our output screen and start off by putting in 1, 2, down to 24, wasn't it? We wanted to go, so there should be a couple more. And we're going to put the team name in there. So in column C, let's just copy these columns like so. So how do we bring Yeovil up into position 1? So to do this, we're going to use possibly a new function for you, which is match. And what we want to do is find where these numbers appear in our previous range. So the lookup value, first of all, will be the position here, A3. The lookup array will be our M column here, where we ranked the teams. Pressing comma again, we want an exact match, which means we type in 0, close the brackets, and press return. So that returns a figure of 23. What does that actually mean? Well, let's just freeze or lock these cells a minute and copy and paste down, because it might be easier if we look at position 16 here. So what Excel has done is looked for the number 16 in our array here. It's found it in position 1, hence the reason it's returned 1 as an answer. Back at the top here, it's looked for number 1 in this array and has found it down here, second bottom, which is, take my word for it, row 23. So we've now identified that the information for Boston is in row 1 of our table. So how do we dig it out? So row 23, we want Yeovil's details to appear there. And this time then we're going to use probably another new function called offset for you. And offset simply takes the argument of a reference, so a particular cell, and we're going to choose the one above the list of team names here. Then the match function will be our row. So if you think about it logically, what this function will do is go to the row we specify here, A2, and then count down the number of rows we specified. So for Yeovil, it was 23, wasn't it? So it will count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. For Boston, which was position 1, if you remember, in our match, it'll count down 1 position and find Boston. So let's have a look at that properly. Columns wise, we don't need to go across any columns, so we can just put a 0 in here and end the function. And there it is, Yeovil. So let's try and just copy and paste that down just by locking that function as well. To the other teams, and here we are, Boston teaming up in position number 16. So nearly there, Kidderminster at the bottom. So next step is to use my favourite function, I think, at the moment, VLOOKUP. And this will go off and look up a value. So this time we're going to be looking up Yeovil in an array. So the array will be table here, and we'll go all the way across down to goal difference and all those teams here. That worked, so let's try again. Gosh, I'm doing something with my finger here. Let's type it in manually. For some reason my mouse isn't working. So it's going to be I26. So we're going to look up for Yeovil in this column, and then the number of games played is column number 2. Yeovil being 1, this being 2. And again, I want an exact match, so we put in false. And it returns 46. Now just to introduce another function here that you may not be familiar with, and that is the column function, which takes no arguments. So quite simply, if you type it in there, it returns 3 because column C is a third column. If you put it into over here, it returns 7 because column G is a 7th column. So we can use that to our advantage on our VLOOKUP table here by saying, instead of using 2, look at the column, but -1, because we're in column 3. We want column 2, so there's going to be -1 in there. Goodness knows what happened there. Equal the column there. So what the array is now, or what the function is now doing, is looking up Yeovil, i.e. B3, in this array, A3 to I126, A3 to I126, and then going across the number of columns, which is 3, -1, i.e. 2, to bring us back to 1 to 46 points. So next we need to fill in these other columns, and because of the way we've done that, by setting up the columns, we should just be able to copy and paste all the way along, as long as we freeze the array that we're looking at. Like so. Oh, not quite. And that's because we didn't freeze this cell reference here. So it starts off at B3, which is correct, but as we move across, it changes to C3. And obviously it can't find that, so we need to just lock this one as well. But this time we don't want to lock the whole formula, or the whole cell. We just want to lock the B reference. So we want to unlock the 3. So if we copy and paste this over, it fills in our correct results. What we can now do, because of the way we set it up, is copy and paste all the way down to the bottom. Okay, and because of the way we've only half locked this cell, as it moves down, it changes to B4, B8, etc. And there you have it, a league table. It's not very pretty. If you want to colour it up and do different fonts, then feel free so to do. But the aim of this exercise was to produce a league table from a set of results, and I think that's what we've achieved in about just over half an hour. So I'm impressed with that. I hope that all made sense to you. If you'd like to ask any questions or have any comments to make about future videos, then please do feel free to get in touch, either through our website or by adding something to the comments below. But many thanks for your time, many thanks for watching, and all feedback is greatly appreciated.